And we are back. The Museum of the City of New York turned 100 years old this year. And in honor of the centennial anniversary of its founding, the museum has opened an exhibition titled This is New York, 100 Years of City and Art and Pop Culture. It explores the many ways the city has inspired storytelling across art forms. And here now to share more about the exhibition is the Curator of Community Histories, Dr. Monxo López. And Doc, good to have you.
Yeah, hola.
Hola.
Buenos días.
Buenos dias.
Buenos días. Good morning. Yes.
Talk to me about this, 100 years, and it's really a very important milestone, but a milestone that so many people are not familiar with.
Oh yes, the museum is 100, so we're a very old institution by now, and we wanted to see how the city had changed and remained the same during those 100 years that we have been open. A lot of things have changed. Like for example, when we opened in 1923, NYCHA, public housing project, didn't exist. The A train hadn't opened, so you could not take the A train to Sugar Hill because it hadn't opened. But many other things, like we didn't have skyscrapers that we have today. But many other things have remained the same. Like the subway was annoyingly crowded at all times. The city was noisy. The city was dirty. New Yorkers were always like rushing to get somewhere. So what we did was that we put together a show that explored how the city had changed and how the city had continued being the same through the eyes of arts and pop culture. Yeah. So it's about movies, paintings, music, poetry, etc.
So when we see pop culture in a way that really demonstrates past, present, and future.
Yes. Yes, the art allows us to really explore like the deepest meanings of the city and the deepest identities that the city have. The idea is to allow that creativity, those creative minds, those creative geniuses to really help us understand the city and see the city from other perspectives. And so I think you're right. It is not only about the past. It's not only about the 100 years that are behind us. It's about the upcoming 100 years. And I think that art is a very, very solid place to launch us towards the future. It's a really happy place to be.
When I think about history, I think about the fact that many people, particularly young people, sometimes have a hard time gauging in. You got to engage them. But what's being done, if you will? So you got to engage it because you got 100 years of history here, and the story that needs to be told, but a story I think people need to know about. And as historians, sometimes we know that that's a hard thing to really get the various demographics, if you will, across under the roof. How do you do that?
Well, there are two questions there. The first one, the other day, I was listening, celebrating the life of an African American historian that was a borough historian of Manhattan. He was a great friend of the museum, and his daughter was telling that when he was growing up, he was utterly uninterested in history. And then he met his mentor who told him, "You are not interested in history because you're not interested in yourself." And so I think that that's the answer to the first question. Like the idea is to get people interested in themselves, to get kids interested in themselves, because when you're interested in yourself, you want to know about what's happening around you, what your community has achieved, what have been the struggles of your community, what things you need to celebrate about yourself and about your ancestors. And so the way that we're doing that in the museum is really to raise up the volume about the diversity of our city. Like we're trying to really be accurate. It's not just to make ourselves visible. It's to give an accurate rendering of what the history of the city has been so far. And it's a history that has been marred by many sins, including enslavement, but that has also included the contributions of all of our communities. Black people, my people from Puerto Rico, people from all over Latin America, Asian people, Chinese people, all over Africans. Like we have contributed to build this city. And so the best way to get all of those younger generations to be interested about themselves is to see themselves in the stories that we tell in places like the museum.
So when we look at this particular centennial celebration, what stands out to you? What's the most? What would you tell me? I got to come by and see.
There are a few.
A few? Okay, take me through.
There are a few things. I for once, am very partial that we got a notebook, a lyric notebook from Jimi Hendrix. So when you go in there, you're gonna see his handwriting, and he's writing about how hard life was in Harlem when he was living there for a few years. Then we have a magnificent sculpture by John Einhorn and Rigoberto Torres. They do busts of people, particularly people here in the Bronx, and so it's called Double Dutch. It's 4 girls that are like playing double dutch in a beautiful sculpture, like life size. We have the tutu that was worn by Sarah Jessica Parker as part of her Carrie Bradshaw character in Sex and the City. We have the original tapestry of Tarbish by Faith Ringgold. We have hand-drawn storyboards done by Martin Scorsese himself for the movie Taxi Driver. And so we have a beautiful, beautiful music interactive. It's a map of the city. You get to step on each one of the bottles, and when you step on the bottle, music from that bottle comes into play. And so it's a really, really fun game. And finally, we have a very, 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 very beautiful film experience, immersive experience, that stitches together over 400 movies that are based in New York in a 22-minute long extravaganza. It has, tragedy, violence, romantic love, fun. It includes everything about the 5 boroughs as it has been portrayed, as they have been portrayed in film. So those are some of the highlights that we have.
So for yourself, obviously this is an opportunity to take a look at the history and have a celebration of it. When you had this experience, what was your takeaway?
My takeaway is that so many things have changed. Like if we were able to travel back in time, like we will not recognize the city. At the same time, the other takeaway that I have is how much hasn't changed, how much people have had to struggle to make themselves visible in the city, and also how when people thought that there were no ways of moving forward, that there were no possibilities, the city always made up space. People always made up space for themselves, and I think that that's a very uplifting message as we look towards the future. Like our communities, sometimes we feel stuck professionally, personally, as communities here in the city. The biggest lesson for me is that we're not alone in feeling that way, that there have been people from back in the day that felt the same way, but we're here because they persisted.
Yeah. We're talking about the centennial anniversary and celebrating 100 years of city and art and pop culture. The exhibition is out there, and we'll let you know when it's going to end, but we want to let you know there's so much more that's actually taking place as well. It's not just this. It's a whole lot more.
Oh, no.
We need a whole show, but yeah.
We, in Puerto Rico, we say in Spanish, estamos tirando la casa por la ventana. We're throwing the whole house out the window. And so we have right now, also as part of the triennial centennial celebration, we have a photography triennial. It's called This Is Now. So that's going to be running up until August, early August. Then we have People, Place, and Influence, which is an exhibition based on our own collection, the museum's collection. And so it's an exhibition that is going to celebrate like our own internal dynamics and our own internal collecting strategy. Like the exhibition that we have right now is us looking outwardly, The exhibition that is coming, opening in October, is us looking inwardly at our own very, very interesting history. And then in December, early December, we have a show about the Puerto Rican mosaic artist and illustrator, painter, Manny Vega. There are a lot of mosaics by Manny all over El Barrio, East Harlem, and so we're going to be celebrating him, and we're going to be celebrating El Barrio in December.
Yeah. A little earlier, we saw one of these pictures that said Temple of the City. Explain to us, for somebody who's out there watching, what is that, Temple of the City?
Yes, Temple of the City is the title of a very, very famous photo by a photographer, Berenice Abbott, from the 1920s. But we decided to call one of the sections of the exhibition like so, because we believe that the experience of New York City is not only about the diversity of the city, so we're all very different, and the density of the city, we're all very packed together all the time, annoyingly so at times, but the tempo is about the speed about which things happen in the city, which is part of what makes the city unique. It's not only that we are dense, that we're diverse, it's that we are all rushing towards something, and we needed that something yesterday. And so it's about that tempo, about the speed that it's always around us.
We know right now, we're at light speed right here. I'll tell you right now. Dr. Monxo López, thank you so much for being with us. Congratulations, 100 years.
Yes.
I know you'll be out there doing the work. So.
And people should visit NYC, mcny.org.
Okay.
Museum of City of New York.org. MCNY.
Give me 30 seconds. I'll tell them again.
Yes.
All right. So this is New York, the 100 City Years of City in Art and Pop Culture. That exhibition open until July 21st, 2024. It's located 1220 Fifth Avenue in Manhattan from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Thursdays and 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Fridays through Mondays. Now, if you want more information, yes, go visit the website at mcny.org. Follow them on their social media platforms at Museum of City NY. Don't go anywhere. We got more open coming up right after this.